Hello, welcome back. I'm John Stark, your favorite blind film critic, and we are talking still about the X-Men in correlation to X-Men 97. I've been rewatching all of the X-Men films. And this, as promised, if you watched last week's video, which was X-Men Dark Phoenix, this is New Mutants. This isn't even an X-Men film. This is New Mutants. It is available on Disney Plus with audio description. Deluxe by Jedediah Barton. Look at that. Look how fancy that is. And I'm kind of upset because, like, I remember I didn't go to the theaters for this one. And I got it when it came to streaming. I swear it didn't have audio description wherever it dropped. I don't remember where it dropped. Hulu, Max, Disney Plus. I don't know. I don't even remember. But I saw it as soon as it dropped and didn't have audio description. So I watched this film the first time without audio description because I'll watch any X-Men film with or without audio description. I'm a huge X-Men fan, always have been my whole life. So I even watched the weird, there was like this Japanese anime X-Men series that they had for a while that they released stateside. I've seen that. I've tried to consume everything. I haven't seen every episode of Wolverine in the X-Men. That's my only deficiency, I would say, is that I couldn't dive fully into that show. I need to, so that's where I'm only deficient. But this is my second time watching New Mutants, and it had audio description this time, so I felt like I got more out of my experience. So click subscribe because we're going to talk about some New Mutants. It's directed by Josh Boone, who's probably most well known for directing The Fault in Our Stars. He wanted to kind of direct a little bit of a horror movie here, and they made it PG-13, so he didn't quite get that horror movie that he wanted. So this is kind of just what it is. It's an interesting amalgamation of random characters, although I would push back on his whole horror movie vibe and some of the choices that he made in terms of, or that whoever made, when picking characters to have in this film. There are more characters whose powers would be more right for a horror-ish, like if you're trying to pick characters whose powers lend themselves to a scarier movie than this, there are characters that do that. I can think of two off the top of my head that I would have gone with over this. Chamber and Marrow both would have translated much better into a probably Skin too also would have all translated a lot better. I think that's his name, Skin. The guy who has like really stretchy, sort of like Mr. Fantastic. Anyway, yeah, there are other people, but yeah, definitely Chamber. Dude doesn't have like a lower jaw, like just walking around. Anyway, and Marrow is, I mean, grows bones and then uses them as weapons and throws them at people. I mean, there are things you could do. Magik is not really, she's not really a horrifying, a scary creature. Man, they make Magik into such a bitch in this film. Ilyana Rasputin, Colossus's sister, who really could be more useful. She could have more knowledge of the X-Men. I realize this is in a weird timeline because it's like we saw Colossus in the X-Men, but now we're working off of like the Dark Phoenix timeline where Colossus is not an X-Men yet. So Magik is supposed to be the younger sister to Colossus. So if Magik is this age, then where's Colossus? I had so many questions. So we've also got Wolfsbane. We've got Dani Moonstar, who's, I guess, the de facto lead of this group. Cannonball, Sunspot, and no, that's it. There's 5. That's 5. I was like, is there a 5th person? No, there's not. There's 5. So yeah, those are the 5 heroes that are stuck in this weird hospital thing with somebody that's watching them, and there's a force field that keeps them inside, and they can't really go anywhere, and they're being observed. They're being observed in a way that makes it seem like, like everything's going to be okay. We just want to make sure that you grow into your powers, okay? All right, cool. And to be fair, some of these people have had traumatic experiences that led them to this facility, like Cannonball. Sam Guthrie, apparently when he first mutated or used his powers, he left some bodies in his wake. Magik pretty much openly talks about how she's killed like 17 people or something like that. Like, why? Your power isn't even... What for? Like, your abilities are not... You do not belong here. She's carrying around a Lockheed puppet, which really just upsets me. I'm like, Lockheed is not a puppet. Lockheed is a thing. Please, can we just... And Wolfsbane has kind of an interesting backstory to her as well. But mostly we see Dani Moonstar, and she's trying to figure out what her power is. She doesn't know. The others know. Sunspot doesn't know what his power is. Well, he does know, but he's not going to tell anybody. He's hiding it. So, but anybody who knows the character knows what his power is. I mean, Roberto, he's also being featured in X-Men 97, so this is a totally relevant film to talk about because it features one of the characters that's being currently featured in the TV series, which is causing me to talk about all of these films. This movie's okay. It's people talk about it like it's like the worst thing that's ever happened to the X-Men universe. It's really not. I definitely don't like Dark Phoenix more than I don't like this film, and I don't like like X-Men Origins Wolverine more than this. So there are other films that I'd rather not watch again than the New Mutants. This just kind of doesn't have a whole lot of point to it, and it doesn't really have bite. It doesn't really do much or say much, or it's just kind of like, oh, here are 5 cool mutants that we haven't featured in anything yet. Check out their powers. I was a little debatable on whether or not these are actually Magik's powers. They kind of seem to be using her power set and expanding it a little bit beyond what I knew she was capable of, but I can't say I've read every single X-Men comic, so it's possible that she has more than what I originally thought. There was a scene where she like went invisible, and I was like, when does Magik go invisible? Did not get that at all. And that just blew my mind. But yeah, she's otherwise there's some other stuff that was totally recognizable. Wolfsbane's powers are pretty easy to translate. Cannonball, I think they've made him a little bit less than what I saw in the comics. He was always drawn in the comics as being like the lower half of his body looked like the blast off, so I just kind of wondered. I mean, like, he was described, but it's described more as like, oh, he can blast off. And I was like, well, what's happening to his legs? Because I used to see him in the comics like without legs in certain scenes. Like, you'd see him and he'd just be like blasting through, and there'd be like, like that sort of like what you see coming out of a jet, that like jet fire thing coming out of like his waist area. And then, but like later on he'd have legs. And it's just like, okay. He's not like a heavily featured mutant unless you read X-Force. I think he's X-Force. Is he X-Force or X-Factor? I'm going to lean with X-Force. My initial gut instinct is that he's X-Force, so I'm going to stick with that. Where he stands most of the time. I don't think Cannonball was ever on the X-Men. So, yeah, I do like the series. Dr. Reyes, who's I guess the villain here, although it's just not a strong one. And there's these hints that like she works for someone else, and it's like we could have done more with that. We just didn't. You know, Sinister would have been the obvious choice because it feels like we're hinting at Sinister this whole time, but we don't really do anything with that. But then again, I don't think that, when they start talking about like how they need to put Dani down because her powers are too great, Sinister would never put down a mutant. Sinister would just use the mutant and then set it free on the world to wreak havoc. So it can't be that. Anyway, I'm way off the reservation here in terms of I don't even know where my thoughts are anymore on this. I don't think this movie sucks as much as some other people do, and yes, it also is skewed up a little bit by not skewered, it was skewed up a little bit by the fact that it is an X-Men film, and I do enjoy them. So, and I don't think any of these characters, maybe Magik eventually, if they had kept making X-Men films, would have ended up. She's probably the most prominent of the five, and also most likely to appear because of her relationship to Colossus, the most likely to appear on her own in an X-Men film. So I don't think the others were ever going to appear. I don't think they were ever going to do Wolfsbane. I don't think they were ever going to do Cannonball. Sunspot's obviously, I would have been wrong about that because they're obviously using Sunspot in X-Men 97. So Roberto is providing them with, filling a void that they need on the show. And obviously he is working into them. So anyway, I love that he just doesn't want to be called by his mutant name ever, either in this or in the animated series. We just keep calling him Roberto. Anyway, that's it. I'm gonna give the audio description. Jedediah does a predictably great job of narrating these characters and their powers and the dreams and the little readouts on screens and the sort of the scenes where they're trying to do something where it's like, yeah, probably if this was R-rated, probably would have gone a little bit harder on this, but there's a scene where like Cannonball is, he thinks he hears something in the dryer, and it doesn't really go anywhere with that. It just kind of is a scene. That's kind of the thing, is it feels like that this is a film that almost was, and this is the film. This is one of those films that really feels like we need a Snyder cut, like what was the film intended to be? Because this does kind of feel like this is not quite what was intended. This feels like a film that Josh Boone definitely was told, yeah, you can make this R-rated. Yeah, you're good to go. So he shot an R-rated film, and then they were like, oof, Dark Phoenix, I don't know, didn't do too well. We're going to need you to make New Mutants PG-13. And he was like, oh, that's going to be tough. It's probably not going to make a whole lot of sense. And then it didn't. So, Fault in Our Stars is one of the most competently directed adaptations of a book I've seen. I've read the book and watched the movie. That's one of the best adaptations. It is so close to the book. It's amazing that they were able to fit all of that in there because it's really on point. It is like reading the book. In terms of anything that I've ever read that's book to film for me, Fault in Our Stars is what I would say is the best adaptation that I've ever read the book first and then watched the movie, where it feels like it actually kept 99% of it somehow. But so I would like to give him the benefit of the doubt here and say that he intended for something else to happen and was neutered. And this probably needs the Boone cut, but it'll never get it because people just don't care about this film, which is sad. It's got some good talent in here. Maisie Williams, Anya Joy. So, But yeah, nobody cares. This film just is out there, but it does have audio description on Disney Plus, so kudos. Anyway, check it out. Maybe you won't hate it as much as you think you will. Maybe it'll not piss you off as much. But yeah, I'm gonna give the New Mutants a C plus, which is like actually like the same grade I gave Dark Phoenix. I don't know, B minus just feels a little too high for this. I think this is probably honestly a B minus B film if it was R rated. If we got the original Josh Boone cut, I think there's a cut of this film. I would totally believe there's a cut of this film that's better. I don't think there's a cut of this film that'll make it worse. I think the R rated cut probably does make this film feel more cohesive, coherent, so to speak. So I would watch that version, but you know it's not going to happen on Disney Plus. You know, the unrated edition on Disney Plus. No, it's not happening. But anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll be back again next week with X-Men Origins Wolverine. We're going to start into Wolverine films next. It'll be fun. I always love revisiting X-Men Origins. Boom, it's just such a great film. It does mean, though, that I'm only a few films away from Logan, so that's one way of looking at it. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the other side.